Do I get a countdown?
Yeah. Stage is yours.
Hi everybody. It's quite a surprising turnout, I must say. Some of you have, heard me talk earlier the past 16 hours or whatever it's been about diabetes. And I just want to take a step back before we get into this presentation. I want you to take a look to your left and then take a look to your right. If you were in my home country of the United States, one of those people would be pre-diabetic. 90% of those 1 out of 3s would have no idea. Because pre-diabetes, you don't wear it on your face. It's not obvious in your BMI. There's more complex behavioral nutritional components to whether or not you're insulin resistant, whether or not you're predisposed to diabetes. So we'll look at the stats, they're pretty staggering. Like I said, 84 million people in the United States, more than 1 out of 3 adults are pre-diabetic, and 9 out of 10 of them have no idea. The most mind-boggling part of this is that type 2 diabetes is the single most preventable illness that is also irreversible. The American Health Association, the American Diabetic Association will tell you simple lifestyle health interventions will prevent type 2 diabetes and reverse it if you're pre-diabetic. How do we solve this problem? We're in a constant battle of healthcare for profit, if you're in the United States and other Western countries. Actually, thankfully not most of the industrialized world, but the United States, where we're in a tug of war between massive profits for some and long-term suffering for many, many more, including low-income minority populations who are disproportionately hit with type 2 diabetes. How do we solve the problem? Go back, please. You'll notice here, a lot of groups, a lot of pioneers are coming up with ways to solve the problem through outcomes-based financing. What does that mean? Next slide. Social Finance Israel is one of those groups who I represent. We raise money from the private sector, allocate it towards the public sector to intervene with pre-diabetics and generate returns based on the improvements in those pre-diabetics' health behaviors. So we're here to tell you how, but we're going to use T2D to turn those blood sugar levels around.
Yeah, we want to show you what we did. Right. So we have a mobile app where the user can actually upload the health data, like his weight and his sugar blood levels. You do short of time, or you will jump to the essence is that we don't want to record this information on the blockchain because of privacy issues. So the users will report confidentially using zero knowledge proofs and multi-party computations only to a certain moderator, and what will be stored on the blockchain will only be the average of a certain group that is managed by a certain moderator. When the users needs to report their data, they will only report the deltas, right? So that
the change in their weight.
Change in the weight, so they do something like this, right? This is a transaction on the blockchain. And if you go to the actual wallet, so we can see, you see that now a new transaction was submitted. And, by the way, this is the hardware blockchain. You see the information is encoded as JSON. And there is a smart contract listening in the background, and you see that if there is actually improvement like the weight loss or a reducing sugar level, it actually compensates you with a good dollar token, or actually you see it issues an asset transfer transaction that compensates you.
Can you go back to the UI?
Yes.
And to strengthen the uploading of information. We provide an interface for the participants in these intervention programs to weigh in, upload a photo of their feet on the scale. They'll get notifications that they've been rewarded T2D for each time they do so. And then this is the crucial component of the need of this type of instrument, is that the first iteration of using outcomes-based financing to invest in preventative healthcare, which is against the business norms of healthcare maintenance organizations and providers. We are going to tap in to the capitalist societies that have been causing type 2 diabetes in low-income populations by providing them corporate partners who want to extend their corporate social responsibility and offer them health products, selected products, in exchange for their adherence to type 2 diabetic intervention programs, including, go to the top for me, including, and this is the most important of all, good dollar, to give good dollar in exchange for adherence to health intervention programs to those who are of low income and suffer the most from capitalism.
First, I want to say it's really, really nice. It's really, really, I really like a lot of fun. Especially, I like it because obviously, governments are willing to pour a lot of money because it's really expensive to have type 2 diabetes. And if you give some of it for the people that behave nicely, I think it's a great incentive model. I'll move it to Adish.
Can I just make one comment
Sure.
for that? There have been, I didn't say this, but over $2 billion allocated towards outcome-based instruments in the past 6 years, 7 years. Yes.
And something that may be worth consider, it's good you're having some of the positive responding to that, but you can use it also to some level. Maybe it's a bad word to use, or I'm going to use, but it can also be a monitoring tool for the government. I mean, in even more complex sort of incentive models. Okay, it's nice if you get something, but maybe also you have responsibility in your health process, and that may have effect on different things. I mean,
Sure. So obviously, in a 5-minute presentation, it's really hard to explain how convoluted Pay for Success is, but there is very much a performance management aspect, and usually, an organization like mine will be an intermediary between the adherence and the expectations of the outcome payers, who are normally governments or HMOs. So yes, the evolution of this would include all sorts of uploads and alerts and types of systems that reach out to patients and tell them, hey, you haven't checked in a while. And again, part of the benefit of blockchain is that you're reducing the transaction costs of these types of instruments, which is basically the biggest criticism, aside from the fact that some people think that these instruments turn vulnerable people into commodities, which is, again, another thing we're trying to solve here by providing resources to people who actually get involved, go get help, and adhere to it.
I think that it really puts the good in the good dollar, because preventive healthcare is something that we should take our responsibility on. We can't, assume that the total disalignment of interest with the pharma companies, they're not going to, to take care of this. So I totally like the good cause of taking good dollar on the blockchain. It all makes sense, but just in an incentive model. When we're looking at this, as Emily said, when we're looking at this ecosystem, then we're seeing how incentivized each participant is. So the government is obviously incentivized, right, to reduce unhealthy population. The end user is incentivized because usually people, they like extrinsic gifts, right? So they will benefit from their health, but the first thing they'll think about is getting these good dollars. That's how, what can we do? We know smoking kills and we still smoke. And if we would pay people to not smoke, maybe that would be a good incentive. But I like the way that you turned it back into the marketplace. So the very fact that I'm distributing to people becoming more healthy, but then I'm also kind of empowering them to change their lifestyle. I'm putting them in a positive spiral upwards. Okay, now don't go to McDonald's, go to Whole Foods. Now don't. So this really brings it home, and I really, really like that.
And I think that, thank you for saying that. I want to just put a personal note onto this. I'm very personally affected by how low-income groups have to resort to providers of food products like McDonald's or whatever else, and how it affects. And I think that the corporate social responsibility movement industry hasn't quite yet tapped into doing those types of things with validity and actual like verification of activity along the way. Right now, we just sort of give donations up front and hope things will go well.
Last question.
Yeah, so in terms of technology, you've mentioned multi-party computations and zero-knowledge proofs. Have you implemented those?
We did implement, the aggregation of the existing results and averaging them and storing the average on the blockchain, which is a primitive form of multi-party computation.
Yeah.
Zero-knowledge proofs,
You can also look at it as zero-knowledge proof about the whole group, right? Without revealing the evidence.
Yeah.
And in terms of, in terms of validating that the information the individual user is inputting is true, how do you do that? Because, I'm incentivized to.
So we devised a complex system how to prevent cheating and so on, but the time did not allow us to present it.
Would you like us to comment briefly on it?
If possible.
So one component is the photos. Another component would be wearables, getting data and trying to triangulate that data. But even more so, there are individuals who are a part of this. And so one of the biggest challenges for groups like us is getting people to communicate, saying that they're participating even on their own in the type of program that we give to them. Because it's important for them to follow it for the first year and a half if they want to maintain good habits for the length of the deal, right? Because it's an investment deal. So we involve in-person checks after a series of reports that would then, if your series of reports that you make personally are congruent with the in-person check after a certain amount of time, then you would then be able to use your good dollars or whatever token, the T2D.
Thank you.
Thank you.